Hey guys, CG here, and today, in our modding tutorials, I'm first going to fix a little issue I had in the last tutorial, and we are also going to explore tile entities, which is basically how you store NBT on a block, which can be useful. So, I am just going to get rid of this render method right here, and I am going to make this accept block again. But basically, the reason I'm doing this is because all this did was render the item. However, in our item code, well, in our blocks, you remember that we do register the item. So, when we do that, in here, it's added to the items register render list, which it is then registered. The block automatically has its model, so you technically don't need to register the renders of the blocks individually as you do that here. Actually, no we don't. But we can. Ignore that, that's something weird, I don't know. What I'm actually going to do is make this method public. So here we're going to register our item, which is b.I, and actually we don't even need to keep track of this anymore. We can... anything special in block base? No, so I'm going to delete block base. Make sure block tutorial just extends a normal block. Good. And that is all our problems fixed. I'm going to remove this line. We're going to register new item block from there, and the name is going to be the name of the block. Import that. Now everything should work, so I'm going to run to test that. As you can see, we get no texture errors down there. So now all we have to do is check and see whether the blocks still work. And as you can see, they do. Look at that. Okay, so now on to tile entities. These are easy and difficult at the same time. I'm gonna go ahead and create a private static final void register tile entities just to keep this thing more organized. And let's see. I'll go ahead and create a block for the tile entity called block tutorial TE for tile entity. New block tutorial TE. So that'll need to be created, but I'll create that in a second. First, I'm going to create another package. I'm going to call it tile. This is where we're going to store our tile entities. Let's go ahead and create this class. So block tutorial TE. Okay. Now what we have to do is we have to implements iTile entity provider. This basically tells Minecraft, hey, we're gonna provide a tile entity. Assuming you spell everything correctly. There we go. Now this is going to need a method. Add unimplemented methods. Right here, we're going to return new tile entity tutorial, which is what I'm going to call my tile entity. So in our tile entity package, I'm going to add tile entity tutorial without the semicolon. Now this is going to extends tile entity. Okay, there's our tile entity, and we're gonna have to import that, and now we have to register the tile entity with the game. So it's gonna go game registry dot register tile entity, and tile entity entity tutorial.class, and then the ID. I'm just going to call this tile entity tutorial. Okay, now if we run the game and we place down block tutorial TE, which currently has no texture, but we can fix that in due time, we should see that nothing out of the ordinary happens. Alright, there's the error with the missing model, but that, once again, will be fixed later. So here's our block. We place it, and it places. That's good enough for me. So let's go ahead and give our block a model. Copy that. Actually, block tutorial TE. Then we have to add a block state. And then finally we have to have an item model. Then we have to get a texture. I'm just going to use the same texture with a bit of difference. Let's make the background red. Make sure to press F5 to reload that. And let's make sure it worked. Actually, first, I'm going to add a name too. So we have tile.blockTutorial.te.name equals tile entity tutorial block. Okay, now it has a name, texture, all this stuff should work. Placing it down functions fine. Perfect. Now, it doesn't do very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to implement iTickable, and what this basically means is every game tick we can call a method in here, public void update. This basically tells us, hey, you're being ticked at this very moment. So why don't we print out to the console every tick we have. Okay, there's nothing in the console yet. When I hold it, nothing happens, but when I put it on the ground, you can see we're getting a ton of ticks in the game. So the tile entity already has a world object, so you can just get that there. And we're going to check if it is not remote, because that means we'd be on the server. And this will tell us every tick. Now I want to get into NBT. So now blocks require you to write a custom save in, well, not custom, it just wants to know what you're saving. First, we have a public NBT compound write to NBT. This is, oh, this should be an NBT tag compound, import that. NBT. I believe I've written this right, and if I have, we should return NBT, and you see the green arrow, which means I have. Now we have read from NBT. Now this is just a void, so we don't have to have a return type, and no green arrow, because it's not read to NBT, it's read from NBT. There we go, green arrow. Now I am going to add a variable. This is what tile entities allow you to do. They allow you to actually put variables in the class. See, if you did that on an item, it's not a very good habit because the variable is applied to every single item. However, this tile entity has a per tile entity variable, which is amazing. So let's create a public int clicks, just like we did last time. Set that to 0. Now in our write to NBT, NBT.set integer, I'm just going to set it to the number of clicks. And here, I'm going to say clicks, if nbt.hasKey clicks equals nbt.getInteger clicks. So if we have it, go ahead and set this variable to it. Now, I am not actually going to be using this tickable method. I'm going to check every time you right click. I'm going to make this number higher. Now, there's no way to check for a right click on a tile entity. You actually have to do that in the blocks class, which means we're going to need to access the tile entity, which you can do from the world. So I'll go ahead and show you how you can do that. First, we have to write the updated onBlockActivated method, which is really fun, as you can imagine. So public boolean onBlockActivated. Oh, that's not all. We have our world, the block pause, the state, the player, the hand, the held item, the direction, and then the position of the player. Am I correct in saying that is just ridiculous? Good. Now I'm going to shorten these names so you can see them all. Already used H? No. Stack dir. Okay, that's good enough. So basically, whenever you right click on a block, this method gets called on the block. Now, we are going to first get the tile entity at our position. So we're going to check the world.getTileEntity at the block. I'll actually change this to pause, and this is block, because the block state has more information about the block, and the pause is the if t, you get what I mean. If te is not equal to null, and it is an instance of our tile entity tutorial. So we first check if there is a tile entity there. Actually, let's return false there. So we check if there is a tile entity there, and then we check if it is our tile entity tutorial. And if there is, I'm going to go ahead and return true here. So basically, when you return false, Minecraft says, hey, nothing happened when you right-clicked it. So, if I were to right-click on a block with another block, if this returned false, it would place the block I'm holding. But if it returned true, it would open the GUI or do whatever the action was. So, in here, I'm going to get the tile entity tutorial. And you do this by casting. Basically what casting says is, hey, since I have already checked that it is an instance of it, I can go ahead and say, well, it is this. So just give me a variable of it that is an instance of tile entity tutorial instead of a generic tile entity. That way we can access our clicks. And we're going to say, if the player is sneaking, remember this, if you're sneaking, clicks goes up. Else, we're going to send a message to the player. So poi.add chat message, new text component string. If I did this right, I won't have to paste what I just copied. Perfect. And now we're just going to tell the number of clicks. Boom. That should work. I've just realized I'm not checking if we're on the server side, which you probably should do. So we're going to first check if w.no not is remote. So we're going to check if we're on the server and the block exists and it is the tile entity tutorial. Okay, so let's get our block. We place it down, we right click, we have 0 clicks. I see what we're doing, I see what our issue is. What we should do is check if the world is remote. If world is not remote, here, and go ahead and return true. Now if we right click, we should only get one message. And we do. And it's on the client thread. Okay, I check if we're on the server, and if we are, I go ahead and quit. So I actually want to call this, I want to check if we're on the client and then return. I don't want to check if we're on the server and then return. I was doing it wrong, sorry about that. So right click, 0 clicks. Let's do it 4 times, 4 clicks, log out, log back in. We have still 0 clicks. And it's still on the client thread. So I still haven't found a direct cause for what's going on. I'm going to check if we're on the server side to do all of this stuff. And I think I've just seen my problem. I'm not calling the super method. So we're going to actually return super.write to NBT. And in here we can just call super.read from NBT. Let's try this. Alright, we right click, no clicks, do it 3 times, or 4, that works too. We join in. We should have 4, but we don't. Now, I've not totally given up, because I can just call super.write to NBT here. No need to return it. Let's try this. Also, let's try not initializing this. This might actually be our problem. So, I'm going to check if this works. We're not going to have a default value set for clicks. So it has to read the NBT to get the data first. So, right click, 0 clicks. Now we have 4 clicks. Let's try that again. Do we have 4? No. Why not? Ah, I hate myself. It would appear that in my has key, I'm looking for click, not clicks. Doesn't that just make you feel all warm inside? So basically, my issue was I was checking if it had a field called click. And if it did, then go ahead and return clicks. Unfortunately, you have a bit of a problem because the field I saved was called clicks. So I've got 4 clicks on there, and I still have an issue. Now, this is when I would usually throw my computer through the wall, but I am not that desperate yet. So, I'm gonna make sure we have all the NBT right. I think we do. Now there is no void method of this, right? It has to be a Boolean, correct? Or not a Boolean. We don't have the source access to this. No, we don't. Okay. I feel even stupider than I just felt, because I never technically registered the tile entity. You see, we do it in this register tile entities method, but when do we call that? We don't. So let's call it in there. Right click, 0 clicks, right click 3 times, we have 4 clicks. We try it again, and hopefully this works. Thank the Lord. We finally have 4 clicks. Okay, so the data finally saved. Anyway, I just spent 28 minutes recording that video. Thank you guys for watching this mess. If you enjoyed it, which I doubt you did, go ahead and leave a like. And if you enjoy my content, go ahead and subscribe. Next episode, I don't know what we're gonna do, but I hope it goes better than this one. Thanks for watching.